Hello YouTube, my name is Nick, and today I'll be bringing you an album review of this album right here. This is Blessed Be My Brothers by Sarpanitum, released on Willowtip Records. Now before I start this review, I have to give some props to Willowtip. I've bought a lot of things from them in the past, and I ordered this album 2 or 3 days before it was supposed to be released, and I got it the day of release, along with a bunch of other things that I ordered, which was pretty impressive because it was a sizable order. But yeah, props to Willowtip for their amazing shipping practices and business models and whatnot. So check out Willowtip if you don't follow them very much, because all they do is release good stuff like this. So on to the album. Sarpanitum is a death metal band from the United Kingdom, and they play a special type of death metal with some black metal influences, with a little bit of power metal influence also that I've noticed. So let's start with the vocals. The vocals, what you can predict out of a band that has fewer members than a normal band, like a 1 or 2 or 3 piece band. You'll typically have the vocalist playing an instrument, which means that the vocals, for the most part, won't be the most important thing going on, and they won't always be present, which I kind of like, and that's kind of my preference, to be honest. The vocals are good, they're very low and guttural, reminiscent of many other death metal bands, but they're recognizable for sure. Nothing you haven't heard before, but still amazing sounding. They're pretty far back in the mix because all the other things are pretty accentuated, so they stay farther back in the mix, and I think that's a good idea, even though they aren't around all that often. But along with the vocals, the lyrics are amazing. I'll talk about the artwork. If it wasn't too apparent, it's kind of a ancient Mesopotamian kind of themed album with like ancient wall scrawlings for their artwork, which is really neat. I like that. It's pretty unique. You don't see that very often. It's kind of hard to read the lyrics in the booklet though, because it's in a font, and it has like the uplifted print, so it's shiny in the light, and it's dull when it's not in the light, so it's kind of hard to read, but it's neither here or there. I'll get to the guitars now. The guitars, on the opening track, not the instrumental opening track, Komenos, but you kind of get some there, but on the song By Virtuous Reclamation, you'll instantly be hit with this amazing sounding power metal-y lead guitar that you'll hear throughout a lot of the album. It doesn't stay around too long, and it's not annoying, even though it is really, really loud in the mix when it is around. But I think that gives it so much more character. And what's being played on those lead guitars are just some of the catchiest, most enthralling leads that I've heard from a death metal album like this in a long time. I always have the intro to that song stuck in my head because it's so catchy. Then once you get out of the lead guitars that are kind of higher pitched and you know, again power metal influenced, you get into the great death metal guitars. And one thing that really surprised me was songs like I Defy for I Am Free, or the song Truth. You'll get some pretty sick black metal riffs too. Great chord progression, and it just makes everything more atmospheric, because something you won't get out of a lot of bands like this is great atmosphere, but the guitars and the kind of pushback vocals add so much more atmosphere to the album. And before I get to the drums, I want to mention that there are 3 instrumental tracks on this album. The opening track, Komenos, Immortalized, As Golden Spires, and Homeland. Each of those instrumentals serve kind of a different purpose. The opening track, Komenos, It just kind of gets you in the mood for all that's about to come. And it's a lot quieter than the rest of the album is mixed, which kind of threw me off because I had it like full blast. And then once By Virtuous Reclamation kicks in, it like blows out your eardrums, but that's just kind of a warning. But yeah, all the instrumental tracks are very different from each other. They're not just there to serve as some kind of filler. They do add to the album quite a bit, like Immortalized as Golden Spires is kind of reminiscent of some kind of tribal track, kind of industrial sounding, mechanical, natural, although that's kind of contradictory. You don't typically hear mechanical and natural in the same sentence. But songs like that and the third instrumental track, Homeland, all put you in this mindset that you're back in the days of when something like this would exist. It's just great. It's amazing atmosphere. You don't hear stuff like that all the time. Now I'll stop rambling about the atmosphere and whatnot and get onto the drums. On the stream that was on the SoundCloud, I believe, of this album before it got released, I listened to it a little bit before I bought it. The drums sounded like butt cheeks. The triggers were way too loud, and everything else was a little too quiet besides the lead guitars. But now that I own the CD version, everything sounds much better. I don't know if it was just the stream that sounded like butt or what happened, but it definitely sounds much more professional and palatable now that you have the CD version. So if you thought the same thing that I did and the digital version sounds like crap, then definitely buy the CD because the mix is 1,000 times better. The drums are amazing, incredibly fast double bass, great blast, fills, rolls, everything that you'd want. And one thing that I did pick up on this is that during some verses and like choral parts, he changes his times and tempos like halfway in between said verse or chorus part. So you'll get like one beat and then he'll stop that beat completely and start a new beat while it's still going, and you don't hear that a ton because it's kind of hard to pull off, but I definitely give him props for doing that because I like to keep up with the drum stuff. So I know how in depth that can get. So one thing I do knock about this album is that everything is really loud, so the bass kind of gets toned down. I personally can't really hear bass. I do have really good headphones, so it's not my equipment, but I don't think the bass not being that audible affects the album too much because everything is amazing sounding already, because the musicianship and the songwriting is already off the chain. So something like that is, while negligible, it does affect it negatively, I think. A good chunky bass tone to back up the sweet, epic sounding lead guitars and maybe some black metal riffs in there to back it up would have helped the album substantially, I think. So overall, I think this is an amazing album. Definitely an end of the year contender. I'll be listening to this for some time to come. I'll probably listen to this like 20 times already, trying to wrap my head around it, because this is something that you'll need a couple listens to thoroughly understand. So this is Blessed Be My Brothers by Sarpanitum. I'll probably leave some links to the Bandcamp stream and the Willowtip website where you can buy this. I think they have some like long sleeve shirts too, along with the album. I think there's I'm not going to say anything about that. I thought there might be vinyl, but I'm not sure. But for a score, I'm going to give this an 8.5 out of 10. This is a great death metal album with many influences. So that's the end of this video. I'll see you next time.